Quick moment before we start. This show is powered by listeners like you who join our Patreon. When you become a supporter, you get early, ad-free episodes, bonus content, and a 5 random question sticker. Because everybody loves stickers. But most importantly, you help keep the show alive and independent. If that sounds good, join us at patreon.com/5RQ. Links in the show notes. And thank you. And now, let's get into today's questions.
I call it taking white advice as a Black person. You know, sometimes it doesn't match. It doesn't correlate. And I ended up feeling worse because I tried something that I didn't realize wasn't going to work for me because the advice was given to me by someone I loved. So I went and I tried it, but I forgot to factor in our differences and how the world looks at us.
Hi, and welcome to 5 Random Questions, the show with unexpected questions and unfiltered answers. I'm your host, Danny Brown, and each week I'll be asking my guests 5 questions created by a random question generator. The guest has no idea what the questions are, and neither do I, which means this could go either way. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode. Today's guest is Keisha TK Dutes. TK is an independent audio producer, educator, host, and reporter with nearly 2 decades in radio and podcasting. Her production credits include Buzzfeed's First Aid Kit, Function with Anil Dash, Good Words with Kirk Franklin, and Open World. She's taught at Spotify, PRX Podcast Garage, and BRIC Arts Media, and currently serves on the board of the Association of Independents in Radio, AIR. Through her company, Philo's Future Media, TK helps producers bring their ideas to life. So TK, welcome to 5 Random Questions.
Thank you so much, Danny. I'm ready. Let's do it.
I'm excited. And obviously, I mean, looking at the bio there, the introduction, you've got a massive amount of experience and passion for podcasting and the audio medium. But one thing that I was interested to learn about, I was looking at your website, and you've got there, which you started during the pandemic, you've got your visual art practice where you use resins and molds to create various shapes. And there's some really cool and interesting pieces on the site, but one that jumped out to me was a really cool one called Granny's Treasure. Now, going by the name, I feel there must be inspired by your grandma. What's the story behind Granny's Treasure?
Yeah, it's you saw the little jar with like the jewels on it. And it just reminded me of like, I don't know, I think every grandma had the 3-piece set, like a vessel, a brush, and a mirror. And I just remember something like that being on my grandma's like vanity, and no one could touch it. You're not allowed to touch it. So that was kind of my way of recreating one piece of the 3 pieces. Eventually I'll make the other pieces, but that was the beginning of that. And when I made it, I showed it to someone, and like the next week it was in a small art show here in Brooklyn, New York. So I was like, when I think of stuff like that, it's like she's talking to me and I'm able to have her in different places. So I'm so glad that resonated with you. I'm always surprised at like how things resonate. People surprise me every time.
Yeah, well, like I said, I mean, there's some amazing, really cool, items there. And I'll be sure to leave the link to your visual art visual art section on your site in the episode show notes so people can check it out. Do you have like a favorite approach to how you come up with a design for that then?
I would say I let the imperfections happen because I'm not I guess a classically trained, artist. I didn't go to school for art. I literally found this medium during the pandemic, and then I have been influenced by people in my community, and so just osmosis. So I don't have like there's a right way to do something. So I literally just keep going till I'm happy, and so it's kind of ugly till it's not, to me, so I'll keep adding colors. I'll keep adding gold leaf. Oh, more gems. Let's do it. My approach is keep going till you like it. And if you can't get to a place, because I've also gotten to a place where I don't like it. So I have to ask myself, why don't I like it? And I realize more often than not, it's because I'm not having a good day or a good time in life in that moment. And there's nothing I could do to get that back. And those pieces sometimes I break them and reintegrate them into like a new piece. And the second piece is like, oh, relief. I feel better now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's very cool. And these pieces are for sale, or is that you do?
Yeah. Some of them, basically, I'm vibing. So if you see like type of thing, you see something you like tell me, because part of also I have to remember that I'm doing this for my wellness. Part of it is if I make it into work, then it becomes something else. So, but I also know that to be able to make more, I have to get rid of things. So I've been working on my balance there. So basically kind of just ask.
I will definitely do that. Like I say, I was like really impressed when I was just going through them, and some really fun, interesting pieces there. So yeah, I will leave the link to that in the show notes for sure.
Thank you.
But what we are here for as well is a little bit of fun on this side, where if it doesn't work, we'll go to the next question and we'll keep going that way. So right. TK, are you ready to jump in 5 random questions hot seat?
Oof. Yes, I'm ready, Danny.
Awesome. Let's bring up the random question generator. Okay, this is a good one to start with here, I feel. Question number 1. If there was an extra hour every day, what would you do with it?
There was an extra hour every day. What would I do with it? Man. Okay, so there's already not enough time in the world for anything. But if I did have an extra hour, man, I would just end up doing what I do now, like just it's more runway, right? It's more runway to like sleep or do art, or like I would focus it on myself, because there's so many hours in the day that you have to do, work. I love my loved ones, but give me a break. You know what I'm saying? But I would do like, come on, let's just do like stuff we like. I'd learn something. I'd watch some more TV. I'm not precious, Danny. Let's just like self-care. So self-care. I would do more self-care with it.
I think I really like that answer, because like you say, everybody's so busy, and it seems that since the pandemic as well, everybody's busier. It was great for a while. Obviously, it wasn't great because of what was going on in the world, but it was great in that places were closed down, so you could stay at home. You could, have a better work-life balance, if you like. You could spend more time with loved ones because it was lockdown, stuff like that. And that kind of shifted again. So I love the fact that you mentioned self-care, and that it's not specific to, okay, I would spend an extra hour in bed, or I'd spend an extra hour reading. It's just whatever you're doing at the time, that would be, the extra hour, I guess.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, like a lot of us figured out, a lot of us kind of answered that question during the pandemic. While it was absolutely weird and terrible, and it played with our brains, it kind of reset something for us, because we had to figure out what to do with the extra hours we were at home. So we were making bread. So we were, doing care packages for our neighbors. We were like finding the outdoors again. So I think that more people can answer this question than we think. And that's what I found. Like I reshifted my whole, I learned how to sleep my way, like what times work for me. I'm on Eastern time spiritually, but I think I'm on Mountain time, like in my heart and soul, like, or Central, so like I learned how to sleep again. I learned some different things to do, learned how to make ice cream, like literally just like, well, I guess since we're all here trying to figure something out, I learned that I had a more capacity for alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, I feel a lot of people probably did that. It's like the fight or flight syndrome, isn't it? I think, okay, how am I going to cope with that? I am curious, maybe like there isn't something specifically, but you mentioned obviously you're very busy. Is there one thing that you would maybe jettison in place of the extra 1 hour specifically, or that you can think, but I could do an hour less of that if it gives me more of this?
Worrying about a variety of things that I can't control. And, we all like, there's all like these sayings about don't worry. It's just what we do. We worry, we're human. And if if there was a magic, you know, spell to worry less about things I couldn't control, that is what I would get rid of. Because, you know, sometimes you're literally sitting there, you're just sitting and you're like, oh, wow, what if this person says this, or what if this job that, or someone was angry at me, but maybe I do a thing. You're making up stories, you know? So I would have to say worry less, you know?
Yeah, no, I like that. I had a guest recently, we just recorded actually for the new season, and she was very similar where, you know, she was very much about giving herself positive reinforcement, like little sticky notes on the, you know, around the house, just saying, because there's so much negativity towards, you know, people in general, there can be. It's important, like you say, to jettison that if you can, and not worry about the stuff that you can't control. If you can control it, great. You've got an option to maybe change it, improve it, get rid of it. But yeah, I like that completely, that if you can't control it, and especially when it comes to mental wellness and mental health, it's key, right, to not focus on that side.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was a nice one to sort of open up and ease you into the random questions. So let's have a look at question number 2. Okay, TK, question number 2. What countries have you traveled to?
Ooh, okay. I've traveled to, my first time out, I went to Japan. First time out of the country. I had a friend that was, she moved there and she missed America. And she was just like, my job is giving me like a little budget. I can bring you out here. And I was like, me for free? Go. Okay. So I went to Japan as like a fresh-faced 20-something-year-old. And I was just with her and her friends, that like her local friends. So I'm like having like super local experiences, to the point where like I'm at the bar with them. We are drinking all night, like how local folks do. She was like, I'm gonna order us so like they have like a elder person come to your house, and she's like, we're gonna put on the kimonos, but we're gonna do it right. Like we're gonna do it. And this like grandma lady comes in and she like gets us suited up, and you have to wear like undergarments a certain type of way, and then they tie the undergarment and they tie it really tight so that everything is snug. And I enjoyed it. I felt like I looked very beautiful in it, and I just never had that experience before, but I didn't know we were going to be out and about for like 12 hours. So by the time it came to like meeting friends and hanging out and doing like, you know, like restaurant bar activities, I was just sitting at the bar and I was like, why do I feel woozy? The kimono was so tight by then, it was like cutting off my circulation. And so like they had to like undo me like at the bar and like loosen everything up. But like I just remember that, and I felt like, I was like, how much more authentic can it get? Like you're like dressed in, you know, the clothes of the people from Once Upon a Time, and then you're also gonna pass out. Like how better can it get? Like yeah.
Well, it's like the Victorian corsets that Victorian women wore in the UK. I'm not sure if it was outside the UK in Europe, like the bustles, I guess it said, would be the North American equivalent if I look at the Westerns, you know, like the old Wild West, and like the bustles where it was so pulled in tight at the waist. So you had the expanded hips and the expanded top half, but the waist was like super, super small. And to your point, it's like so many people, or so many women, would faint. Because the oxygen is being cut off. It's been so tightly wrapped and pulled against you.
The things we do for fashion, Danny, like I'm a different, it's been 20 years since that trip. I'm a different girl now. As we talk today, I'm wearing soft pants with a very stretchy belly part. And to your, you know, we're talking about the Victorian ladies. London, I've been to several times. I love London, and my favorite kind of TV programming. Y'all make really good shows. I just gotta say, I want to compliment you on behalf of your media. Mwah! Fantastic programming. Thank you. Oh,
it's funny. My wife's Canadian, and she came over to the UK for a visit when we first met, I guess. So it was our first time together, and we spent a lot of time watching British TV, and one of her favourite was Graham Norton, who's still going today, who I think is amazing. You know, like the guests he has on, and he just lets them go, and you get some crazy stories from them because of that.
Yeah, no, like I think, and then also like maybe this is the grass is always greener, right? Like I'm someone from elsewhere that's looking at y'all's TV, but I just find it super refreshing. Very, even the dramas, it seemed more candid, you know, than what I'm used to watching here. But so London's on my list. Germany. Oh my gosh. Oh, Mexico is like my second home nowadays, you know, especially with just like, it's a lot of Black people have found their way to Mexico since the pandemic. And during the pandemic, if folks will remember, in America, we were having another resurgence of the civil rights movement, you know, with Black Lives Matter and all. I didn't make the permanent move, but I'm definitely one of those folks that felt motivated to repeatedly visit. And now I feel comfortable calling it, I would call it a second home. And my brother has since moved there after seeing my like adventures. So, you know, there's something in the water, and it's a beautiful place. The people are lovely. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of like, you know, gentrification and understanding that like I can't come from my country to gentrify yours, right? So there's a lot of work to be done there in terms of like this expat / immigrant commentary or conversation that's out right now. But I think those are some of the places that I can remember off the bat that I've had some really great times at.
No, that's awesome, because I know there's like there can be a stereotype of Americans don't travel that much outside your own country, and I know that's not true from many American friends I have and people I've spoken to on this show, for example. But the Mexico is interesting because I know a lot of Canadians used to go to the US, especially in the winter, because winter in Canada, I don't recommend it if you don't like the cold. So we had a lot of snowbirds that would go to maybe Florida or, you know, southern parts of the US because it was warmer, and because of recent, you know, events with tariffs, etc., and statements made about 51st state and all that kind of stuff. A lot of Canadians are moving either to Mexico or choosing that and increasing their visits to Mexico. They'd always go to Mexico, but now they're increasing it and looking to get property there instead of, say, you know, Florida or whatever. So there does seem to, like you say, there does seem to be like a mind shift, a big shift in, you know, cultural approaches to where you go and what you want to do there, etc.
Yeah, and I'm in a lot of these Facebook groups. So like you said, you know, like there's a mind shift, but then there's also just so much work to be done, man. Because sometimes the Facebook groups, it's like, you know, you can't go play in these people's faces. You can't go play in these people's country. Like it's your retirement plan. We are actively driving up prices every time we show up, right? We're actively doing something. So I just find there's a disconnect, I think, right now where people are like, well, I used to come here 10 years ago and the prices were so much more affordable. And I'm like, yeah, like follow that train of thought, friend, you know? So, you know, I just want us to be responsible travelers and responsible, like, relocators, if that's what's going to happen. So I'm working on it for myself. And when I talk to my friends, that too, because it's the only way, right? You got to talk to your people.
Yeah, and I feel as well with the work that you do and the experience that you've got, and even the art, your personal art that you're doing, you've got so much experience that you can transfer anywhere. You know, so if Mexico is your destination and your spiritual new home, etc., I feel like you could easily transplant that, and then, as you mentioned, ensure that it's being done properly and with respect to the existing cultures and infrastructure, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree.
Awesome. Well, I hope you get there, and you let me know. We'll have to have you back on as repeat guest with maybe 5 featured questions about, you know, your new life and the new setup, etc.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'll come back anytime.
Awesome. But for now, we will keep them random. So without further ado, let's have a look at question number 3. Okay, TK, here we go. And I feel I may have asked this before, but it's always a fun one to pop up. So I'm going to ask you anyway, if that's okay. Question number 3. What's the most embarrassing thing that has happened to you?
Wow. Okay. So, um, I do so I do public speaking and I'm a podcaster. So like this is usually not a problem for me. But I was super challenged one time. And I guess I also just hadn't grown into myself. I was a little bit younger, a little bit new to like the scene. And I used to do a lot of different like hip hop shows. And this live band, they had invited me to just be with them. Like they had this real innovative way of performing. They were called the Real Live Show, and they would perform every Tuesday at this small underground like bar in New York City in the Lower East Side. So like very cool. And their whole theme was like spaced out hip hop, and they would just invite different guests. And for some reason, I guess I wasn't suited, or I'm not suited to like that kind of thing. I'm a speaker. I engage on this level, not with a backing track or whatever, but this was like human beings playing like the drums, playing the trumpet, playing this, and then like they had a whole storyline, and I was trying to jump in and I was trying to catch the beat, and I couldn't. And I felt all eyes on me. I felt so embarrassed. I like somehow, I think one of the guys saved me. Like he jumped in, like, like every performer can feel when someone else is kind of like not getting it. And I had two friends that were there, and they were friends. They were not friends with each other anymore, but they can both tell that I needed something. So they just both walked with me outside without talking to each other. And I was just like, I was just so mad, so embarrassed, so like just hurt at like not being good at a thing. And I don't recall ever going back. And I kind of regret that. And I try to do my best these days, and I try to prepare, and I try to like learn new skills. And so like I've been to freestyle workshops, and like how do I want to be able to jump into a thing, and I just never want to feel like that again. And I felt that was when I felt most embarrassed. So maybe I how sometimes you like over process your trauma. So now I'm always like in my mind, I think I'm over prepared, right? I'm reading books. I'm going to have all the talking points. Like, how many ways can an interview go? I'm going to figure out all the ways. Like, but I definitely think the experience made me better as a performer, as an interviewer, as a person that's just ready to jump right into something. But it was hard lesson to learn. It was hard.
Well, especially because it's in the public space, right? You've got people watching you and seeing you, for want of a better word, crumble almost, in confidence evaporate. And I'm wondering, obviously, you're a podcaster, you're in the media space, public speaking, but you feel maybe the problem, if you like, was with podcasts, you're driving the narrative, you're managing, the interview, the guests, the solo direction. With public speaking, again, you're managing the narrative and how you're putting points across and when they come out to the audiences in front of you. Whereas obviously with freestyling or when you get an up like open mic almost, it's someone else's narrative now. So now you're trying to fit in, and maybe that was where the disconnect was with it.
Yeah, no, looking back, I definitely think so. And it's like this pressure to fit into someone else's thing. And they had been so well integrated. And I think I put too much pressure to be like them instead of be like me. Because now I would have probably said, hey, guys, stop. And let me do a little something like this off the top of my dome, and then just like, maybe and just accept that I can't catch a beat, and just be like, hey guys, we're going to stop the space travel for a second, but y'all are going to still come with me on a journey, and I'm going to just talk, and I'm just going to share. All right, guys, pick it back up, and we're back. Now I understand that I kind of allowed my agency to be given away in that moment, now that I think about it.
No, and that makes perfect sense. It goes back to your point again about, not being able to control something, and putting so much emphasis on what you can't control. And obviously you can't control the tightness of the band and how they perform. That's their stage, that's their movements, etc. But you can control, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of narrative here and insert my own, okay, let's do this. And then we can come back to your side.
Yeah.
So I feel that backs up your point from earlier, where it's about, now you're older, and I say that with utmost respect. I'm not saying you're old at all. Now you're older, you know that, you can understand, you can recognize that, and how to avoid that and overcome it then.
Yeah, definitely. It's about stopping. My friend told me a good piece of advice, and he did his first TED Talk, and I recently gave a speech to like 400 colleagues that I was super nervous about. And he said, when they do a TED Talk, they make you do it off the top of your head. There's not a note in sight. And that they instruct them, TED folks instruct the speakers, if you get hung up on something, just stop. And then it'll come to you, you'll pick it back up. And also for editing, right? They put a lot of that stuff on YouTube. So they want you to just stop. So when I gave my speech, nervous as I was, I got to a point where I didn't know how I was going to deliver it. They just had a stage, a mic, and I'm just in just this scene. And I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, chair, table, got my mic. No one's done this before. I decided to set the scene on the stage and take an extra minute and a half to bring over the chair, bring over a small table. And in that minute and a half where I'm setting my scene, I'm building the room, right? And I'm giving them a setting that is for me and no longer this auditorium setting. So when I brought the chair over and I got all the things together, I said, welcome to my bedroom. I'm going to read from my journal now. And those were my notes, right? So that no longer looks like notes and no longer looks like a person trying to give a talk. It is, you have now been invited to my intimate space. And then when I sat down in the chair, I felt myself lock in. And when my friend told me to stop, when I would get to a part where I just was like, whoa, I was just like, hold on, guys, let me turn the page. That was me stopping, right? And I think that girl from a couple weeks ago that gave that speech, talking to, the girl that was freestyling at the restaurant or trying her best, I think they'd have an interesting conversation,
Yeah, I really like that approach. It's like you say, it's giving you time to take control of the environment and situation, but it's making people focus on you and what you're doing in readiness for that. So they know, okay, we have props, or, for want of a better description, we have TK on the stage, we have these, this is my visual cue, this is what I'm going to focus on. So I love that, the way you sort of flipped that a little bit and made it your space, and this is my room, this is where I feel comfortable, now I can talk, and let's go, let's do this together. That is awesome. I'm going to keep that in mind. I don't do public speaking, but if I have to get up in front of the community hall or anything like that for the local village where I live, I'm going to keep that in mind. I might just pull over like a little fire hydrant or something like that. Something weird that they've got to focus on apart from me.
Yes, and let me know how that goes, because it's your community.
Yeah, exactly. I will be sure to do that. Maybe over the Christmas period, they sort of do like a dinner, get everybody together. So they sometimes get people up there. So I shall definitely, for sure, let you know on that. This part is brought to you by someone awesome. We'll be back with more questions in a sec.
Hi, I'm Dawn Brody, a comedian with a history degree and the host of the podcast HILF, History I'd Like to F***. Each episode, I am joined by a new guest who has brought me a subject from history that they want to know more about. Then I hit the books, I dig deep in the annals, and stimulate. We've covered Frankenstein, Houdini, Joan of Arc, Pompeii, the Salem witch trials, right? Join us and find out for yourself that history is a party and everybody's coming.
Hey there, Danny here. If you enjoy 5 Random Questions, I've started a short weekly newsletter called the 5RQ Companion. Each week, it's just a few things. One lingering question from the episode, one small behind-the-scenes moment, and one question just for you. It's free, thoughtful, and a nice way to keep the conversation going between episodes. You can find it at 5rqcompanion.com. And now, back to this week's episode. One thing I do know is it's time for question number 4. Are we ready to move on now with question number 4, TK?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, I like this because you were just speaking about advice that you got. So I like this question, actually. Question 4. What is the worst advice that you got that you actually listened to?
Oof. That I actually listened to. Okay. This is going to be a little vulnerable. I kind of share this in my podcast, The Secret Life of TK Dutes. And that first episode is about my journey through burnout, or like what happened, right? And burnout looks a lot of ways, and it presents very specifically for Black people, Black women. And I forget that thing. Sometimes when I'm talking to someone I love, it doesn't matter to me who they are, right? They're Black, they're white, it doesn't matter. But I forget that the world is experienced differently based on who we are. So in the podcast, there's a moment where I'm reflecting on my colleagues, lovely people. They happen to be white, and they're sharing. They're like, TK, they're reflecting. They're like, this thing that happened to you, it's absolutely crazy. Have you done this, that, and the third, right? And I go, you know what? Let me go do that. And then I realize it doesn't, I go do the thing. It doesn't work for me because the world doesn't experience me like they experience the world, right? Like my white colleagues have a different experience than me. So I call it taking white advice as a Black person. Sometimes it doesn't match. It doesn't correlate. And I ended up feeling worse because I tried something that I didn't realize wasn't going to work for me, because the advice was given to me by someone I loved. So I went and I tried it, but I forgot to factor in our differences and how the world looks at us. So it made me sad, and a little bit alienated me from my friends, because I was scared to tell them stuff, and I was scared to receive advice that I then would be overcritical of, because I think, well, this is not going to work for me, whatever, or that also that they didn't see it, that it wouldn't work for me, right? That because it worked for you, they weren't realizing that it wouldn't work for me. And that kind of made me feel like, man, maybe they don't know me. Maybe they don't see me. And maybe now I'm going down the road, right? When I say worry less, I wish I could worry less, but it's kind of like the cards have been dealt, and these are the things that go through my mind. So anyway, all that to say is, it's not like a piece of advice. It's just a tough thing, a tough difference that I've had to like realize. And now you kind of have to do it with everybody, right? So, would you take dental advice from a dentist with messed up teeth? No, so now I kind of have to look at the world like, okay, well, who's talking? And I kind of also would love to ask the world before they say stuff to recognize who they're talking to, and I think a lot of people with chronic illness could probably relate in a way that like people give them unsolicited advice. They go, have you tried yoga? Have you stretched? Have you drank this mushroom tea? And these people are like, I'm in pain. Recognize that I'm in pain. So it's kind of like that. I don't know, and I hope I'm correlating it properly. But for me, I feel like there's different populations that can like understand that.
100%. And I know as a sort of smaller example, my wife, she suffers from she suffers from depression and anxiety. She has done since she's 20 years old. And one of her old employers, one of her old bosses said, well, if you try yoga, that'll make you feel better. It's like, but not being in the same position, as my wife who's got these issues and how she deals with them. And to your point, TK, it's even the most like well-intentioned ally, unless they're living the experience of the person they're trying to be an ally for, can never give the right advice. They can give advice maybe, but as you say, unless it's lived, it could never be the right advice, I feel.
Yeah. There's that barrier, like we can knock that barrier down, but like, and also like knowing, and because I also want to be very clear that there's some people that have your experience that will give you absolutely crap advice. So there's that, but I think we all have to just be like, it comes with just recognizing who a person is and the body they're living in, that actually counts, like that means something. And I think my disappointment came from not realizing that sooner and then feeling hurt that they didn't see it. Right. So when you talk about your wife, like, it's like, don't you see, like, I'm going through something and this doesn't help me at all. Like, ask me what I need and then like, let's talk, so yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that. What's your sort of approach to that then, where you could maybe see that people are trying to help, but they're doing the opposite almost because they're not in your shoes. They don't know exactly what you're going through, what you need at that time. Do you try and like steer them or give them advice, or do you just like, what's your approach?
Now I try to, now that I have it in my mind, like I have an example of like this thing. I try to stop it before it continues. I go, oh no, I promise you that's not going to work for me. I've tried that already. What I need is X. And then you got to be prepared to ask for something and be direct nowadays, because if you leave it up to folks, it's just whatever their experience is. So yoga might be the thing for that person. And you just say, so now I'm like, okay, so, when I've been in my down depression times and, I've said to people, I could use a snack. I could use some time alone. Maybe you won't be able to get back to you till Tuesday. I could use this thing. So if it's a workplace thing, which a lot of my stuff was at the time, or the source of a lot of my stuff, and like it's friends and colleagues trying to give me workplace advice. If they work with me directly, I would say eventually, hey, love that. What I really need from you is, when we're in the meeting and that thing happens, can you like back me up, or can you like reiterate? Can you like throw the question back to me so I could repeat myself? Because I feel like this thing is happening to me a very specific way. So sometimes you literally have to spell it out to folks. You can't bank on folks reading your mind, Yeah.
And I mean, hopefully, but I would imagine though, like friends, close friends especially, appreciate that approach too, where, now they know how to help. And maybe they felt bad about trying to help and then making you feel worse as well. So now they're hopefully more cognizant about, okay, let's really listen to what TK needs and let's make
definitely.
that happen.
Yeah.
That is awesome advice. And again, I'm really bad at speaking directly. It must be the Libra side of me where you're meant to balance crap out. So I will try.
Yeah,
I will
say
try and
it
make
when you
that.
go to your community meeting. What do you want for this fire hydrant now? Like,
yeah, exactly right. I need it hosed up, or I just wanted like just ornamental there. Yeah, I like that. I will do that. Do that for sure. All right, well, TK, we're almost there. Let's have a look then at question number 5 to bring you home. Okay, question number 5, and I like this one to ease things out for the end of the 5 random questions. So TK, number 5, tell me about your dream house.
Dream house. Okay. TK's dream house. I really love one of my next hobbies in life, or my next career, or my next whatever comes to me, because I seem to be amassing a ton of hobbies as this life goes on, and as I try to like heal and do things that are outside of the norm. Is I love mid-century design, and I would just love a fixer-upper to fix up. I think there's another part of me that's going to be like interior decorator or some type of like that kind of person. A lot of the stuff in my current place is like found from the street, found from friends, found from Facebook Marketplace. And so I would love like a house that kind of blends contemporary modern design, right? Like modern convenience with stability of like old stuff, like refrigerators used to not, they don't break, right? Like they didn't used to break. And like inside a refrigerator, like back in the day, I don't know how back, maybe the 50s, they used to have like a giant Lazy Susan. So you could get the food and turn it and see the food. I think that's so like mind blowing. So I'd get myself an old fridge. I'd get myself an old stove because they thought the future. They thought they were forecasting the future, in like the 50s and 60s. So like the stove would have 4 different compartments. You could make pancakes and a roast at the same time. And I'm not saying I'm any Susie homemaker at all, but if there's an opportunity to make bacon and like a fried fish at the same time, I'm gonna take it. So like, I would like some like appliances that are old and stable that I'd never have to like change. But of course, I would love to like use a remote control to like control my air, so that's what I mean about like that. And then like some just like cool furniture with like bright colors. Like I want us to get away from beige. I want us to get away from brown. Like brown is cool actually. Beige and like these weird like millennial gray. And no, I just want us to be open to colors and wallpaper again. And when you walk into your house, like people say, oh, this is these people are living, this is not just ornamental. I come from my people are Caribbean, and I think more than just Caribbean people can relate to the plastic on the furniture and that room you don't go in. And I love my mom, but she does it now. Like there's places you don't sit. There's places you don't touch. I want to live in it. I want to get the cool couch and I want to put my feet all over it. I want it to be bright. I want rooms to have different kind of wallpaper. My dream house is the dream house that I can design that has like amazing, just comforts, a space like to make art, a space for whoever I'm living with, my chosen family, to have their interests, like to do their like art, craft or whatever. And then like cool, like appliances from the past. Yeah.
I like it. Sort of like the Jetson appliances, right? Where you got the future vibe, but they all sort of, almost like the Fantastic Four as well, the most recent movie, but it had that vibe. Yes. I'm curious, you mentioned obviously the dream house would be get a fixer-upper and then infuse it with these different, items and different styles and approaches. You've been to a lot of countries that are very different from each other, different cultures. Is there something you pull from one of the countries or two of the countries or whatever that you feel, I must have that? If I had a dream house, I could do whatever I wanted, I'd grab that from there.
Yeah. I would say, okay, all the color stuff, I'm definitely thinking Mexico. The color, and then just all the art, like all the handicrafts and all those would be hanging in my house. The efficiency model that like Japan has a lot of efficiency going for it. So definitely would pull from that. I have a thing for some of the small objects I make, like plates and stuff like that. Like I think of, like there's always a plate with, y'all had the queen and I guess y'all have the king now. There's always a plate with a location or a royal on it. I love those kind of like effects in a home. I think we just shouldn't be shy about that stuff. And like wherever we go, bring some of it back. I'm very big into when I go somewhere, how do I make it home for me so that I can feel cozy? But when I come back home, what am I taking out of my suitcase to remind me that, like, man, that was amazing. Tapestry, Japanese tapestry is beautiful. And then I do end up having too many little things, but I don't care. I'm throw it all away when I'm all gone. I don't care.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's lived, right? It's a lived experience. It's not like that can't be touched because that's pristine. That's got to remain pristine. Yeah. Like the best china, you can never use that for tea or coffee or whatever, right? You can't do that. But I'm guessing one thing you won't have in your dream house is a kimono fitting closet.
No. They're not going to tie me up again. I can't do it.
We will not be bringing that in from Japan, not at all. No. That is awesome. Well, again, if you do have that, please share photographs. I'd love to see that. That's awesome. And it's nice to hear your approach to what a dream home would be, because sometimes you can get people that say, oh, it'd be a massive mansion, pool, gardeners and all that cool stuff, which nothing wrong with that. But I like the lived-in approach where it's real about, this is my experience, this is my life, and this is, you're going to be comfortable. No matter who you are and you come to visit me, you're going to be comfortable, which I love.
Walk with your shoes off, guys. Sorry. But I will have socks for people. Oh, and I will say one thing, Danny. Like there's a plague of the front lawn is like, I think the biggest thing, the biggest plague in housing in America, right? A waste of space and a way to take us away from our communities, like the green, pristine front lawn. And I would probably make some people mad. I would just start planting food. I would plant food for people to, if you see it, and, I'd put a little sign for my neighbors. Take what you want, leave me like 3, take what you want, leave me 3, come up on the porch, get some herbs, like leave me a little bit. But, I would love to rip up a front lawn and make it into a little garden. Yeah.
I hear you on that. We used to live in close to Toronto, actually. We used to live before the kids were born. And it was always the same thing. It was like pristine lawns, a lot of wedges, etc. And we moved to a little village 6 years ago, 2019, just before the pandemic, actually.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed is the fact that we've rewild it. We'll just let the place go to crap, if you like. And because of that, there's a huge wilderness ecosystem now. You've got different birds, critters, all that, and it's amazing. So yeah, I'm 100% on you. I used to be that person that wanted the yard to look really nice, trim it down, get it to a certain height with the grass, etc. No more.
Nah, there's so much little joys in like what you can find in a yard now. And I also learned that from a friend of mine who, she was a podcaster and now she does farming. Like she has a flower farm in Indianapolis and that's what she does. And she walked me through Millennium Garden in Chicago. She walked me through and showed me their area, which just you described, like your home now has like just like all this cool wildlife and different like stuff growing. She's like, yeah, so they did this on purpose. And people think that in the winter, it looks overgrown and it's brown. And then she explained every part of that ecosystem. She's like, it's brown because like it's hibernating, and underneath all these leaves that you think are dead are bugs that are feeding the soil, and in the spring they'll come back, but we won't cut it per se. We're gonna let it and I'm like, man, this is blowing my mind. And I'm like, man, if we could just all be more open to like that as a thing for our gardens, but also like a thing for our lives. There's a season, there's a reason, there's something that's feeding you from the inside that you won't even get to like see bear fruit till later. And I hope that our lives, that we can like kind of tap into that,
As I mentioned, I 100% agree, and I think that's a perfect segue into the end of your time on the Random Hot Seat. So I really appreciate that, TK. I love that answer. As is only fair, I had you on the hot seat for about 40 minutes or so now. So it's only fair to hand over the question baton to you.
Okay, so with my podcast, I'm kind of going through my healing process and seeing what's on the other side, and it's a journey. So I'm asking other people, because also I think other people feel very, people that have given me feedback, they feel very empowered to share with me what went wrong, and for them, what the cause of their burnout was. And I'm like, thank you. Appreciate that. Not your therapist. However, I am interested in hearing how you're healing. So, Danny, how are you healing? And it doesn't matter what from, and it doesn't matter what size or what level of healing. How are you healing?
No, I appreciate that. And I think it ties into the move that we made, as I mentioned, 6 years ago. We lived in a big city. It wasn't Toronto, but it was a city quite big. There's like a lot of people there, lots of great buildings and stuff. I worked at an agency. Agency life can be demanding. And it was a long commute. It was 2 hours there, 2 hours back. So I had young kids that were 5, 6 at the time, really young. So I wasn't seeing them in the mornings. I'd left by the time they got up, and they'd had dinner by the time I got home, and it was almost time for bed. So there was a lot of stuff going on, and it was just burnout. And there was one morning where I was on the bus at the train station, getting ready to go on the train to Toronto to do my job, and I couldn't go forward. I couldn't work, and basically I had a breakdown. And my wife, as I mentioned, she's very experienced with mental wellness. She had a podcast for a while about her journey. So she had me on to speak about that and my diagnosis. And I got a lot of good treatment with a specialist place, where we lived at the time. So that was awesome. And it made me realize that I had to step back and get out of that environment. So I guess my healing from a wellness point of view and from just a nicer place to be in here, and for the listeners, I'm pointing to my head because we're not, doing video, was moving, to a really small village. There's only 800 families here. It's a very small place. There's a lovely lake about a 15-minute walk from our house, so you can go there and kayak and swim in the summer and all that cool stuff. And it freezes in the winter. You can walk over it to one of the islands. It's a nice place. It's a nice, quiet. It suits me, and it's really, people that I used to hang out with in the old place where I lived know the difference in me when I speak to them on the phone or go visit, for holidays or whatever. So I feel that's my healing, is I had to have that breakdown, if you like, and then realize why it was happening. And then, okay, what do we do? Let's move to a quieter place and start afresh almost.
Wow. And just real quick, how did it feel? Was it scary to start over in another place, which was totally different from this big city?
It was super scary because you've got a whole different way of life to think about. So you have to prep your home for winter because the winter's here lasts 5 months. We live in a well. I never lived in a well before. So if that runs out because of the hot weather, you've got problems.
Oh, wow.
We live in a septic, so that manages all the waste and everything. And you've got to manage that every so often. So there's a whole bunch of things that you had to completely change that took getting used to. And then pulling the kids out of school sort of halfway through the year to move up here in the winter. It was a big change, but we can't imagine doing anything differently now. So it was scary, and it took us a while to get into the mindset of going from a way up here city-wise to a way down here village-wise, and all that entailed. So yeah, it was definitely scary. I think, weirdly enough, the pandemic helped because we moved November 2019 and then March 2020, the world closed down basically.
Yeah.
So that gave us time to adapt and learn what we had to learn, etc. So by the time the world kind of opened back up, all right, this is what we do. Now we need to make friends and such as, and, integrate ourselves to the community. And that kind of helped, I think. Yeah.
You guys tippy-toed into it.
Yeah, as opposed to just arriving and going, gung-ho, hey, we're from the city, let's do this. And that would have been awful. That would have been awful. So yeah, it worked out that way for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
No, thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. And it's like you say, it just goes back to all you promote is about, taking the time, knowing yourself and being there for yourself. So I appreciate that question, TK. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad to.
So I really enjoyed chatting to you and hearing your answers. And hearing the vulnerabilities for people that want to learn more about A, the podcast that you have, B, your speaking, C, the cool art and all the other amazing stuff that you do. Where's the best place to A, connect or listen, etc.?
Yes. Everything is on tastyquiche.com. That is what the TK stands for. That was my original, very, very original early days radio name when I was on broadcast. And tastyquiche.com, and different tabs will take you to different places. The podcast is up there called The Secret Life of TK Dutes, and it is an experiment. It's non-linear, so sometimes we'll be on a journey of the mind. Sometimes we'll be on location, and sometimes we'll be just in the world talking to each other. So super glad to be here, and I'm so very, very thankful, Danny. I appreciate you.
You're welcome, and I appreciate you being here, and I will leave all the links to that in the show notes as always. So whatever app you're listening on, or if you're listening on the 5 Random Questions website, the episode show notes will have the link over to the website, and you can catch all the amazing stuff that TK does there. And please do check out the art section. There's some really, really cool, very nice stuff there. So again, TK, thank you for appearing on today's 5 Random Questions.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to 5 Random Questions. If you enjoyed this week's episode, I'd love for you to leave a review on the app you're currently listening on or over at 5randomquestions.com/review. And if you know someone else that would enjoy the show, be sure to send them this way. It's very much appreciated. Until the next time, keep asking those questions.